All right, I'm going to call to order the Town Council regular meeting Tuesday, April 21st, 2026. Our invocation will be done by Jeff Roper, pastor of Panopolis Community Church.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings you give us every day. Among those blessings, we thank you for this beautiful, wonderful town, Moncks Corner. We thank you, Lord, for our town council, our mayor, our town staff and employees, and the work and dedication they demonstrate every day, Lord, as they serve our community. We celebrate tonight these individuals that will be recognized, and we thank you for each of them and for all the opportunities that you give us to serve you in many ways every day. Father, we just pray that you'll bless the council tonight, guide them in your will, and help them, Lord, as they do make decisions for our community, our town, and our citizens. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance will be done by Councilman Dennis.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight we have a couple special recognitions, and we're going to start with the 2026 Berkeley High School Beta Club champions. Could we get the Beta Club members, lead teacher Brittany Colley, and sponsors Jeremy Colley and Kathy Jones to come up, please? This is going to be a long one. Whereas the 2026 Berkeley High School Beta Club consists of 215 members in grades 9 through 12. Of the 215 members, 150 students attended the state convention in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, February 5th through 8th, under the outstanding leadership of lead teacher Brittany Colley and sponsors Kathy Jones and Jeremy Colley. They will compete at the National Convention in June in Nashville, Tennessee. And whereas these students competed in over 75 academic, art, and talent competitions against students from around the state, and whereas Mayor Thomas J. Hamilton and Town Council are deeply proud of the Berkeley High School Beta Club and would like to call public attention to this group and recognize them for their outstanding accomplishments at the state convention. At the state convention, 9th grade U.S. History, Callie Driggers, 5th. 9th grade Agri-Science, Cadence Wright, 5th. 9th grade Psychology, Hayden Carner, 5th. 10th grade Psychology, Marley Smith, 4th. 10th grade Agri-Science, Jordan Hoffman, 4th. 10th grade Language Arts, and if I mess up a name, I'm sorry in advance. Ayana Stremlow, 3rd. 11th grade Psychology, Cal McKinley, 2nd. 11th grade Spelling, Olivia Dang, 1st. 12th grade Psychology, Nava Hundley, 4th. 12th grade Social Studies, Jace Dye, 2nd. Pottery Division, Presley Lovell, 3rd. Color Photography, Division 2, Dalton Smith, 2nd. Black and White Photography, Division 1, Jacqueline Fisher, 4th. Creative Writing, Division 1, Bethany Knighton, 2nd. Digitally Enhanced Photograph, Division 1, Aubrey Edwards, 2nd. Fiber Arts, Division 1, Brakely Ronek, 5th. Hand-Drawn Anime, Division 1, Cadence Wright, 1st. Mixed Media, Division 1, Mana Zaman, 3rd. Quilling, Division 1, Mana Zaman, 3rd. Recyclable Arts, Division 1, Madeline Mixon, 4th. Sculpture, Division 2, Lily Elliott, 4th. Woodworking, Division 1, Alyssa Scott, 1st. Woodworking Division II, Kaylee Bowman, third. Hand-Drawn Division II, Tommy Guy, second. Pottery Division II, Rains D'Antonio, first. On-Site Drawing Division I, Addison Amons, third. On-Site Painting Division II, Ava Doty, fourth. On-Site Cake Decorating Division I, Anna Gregory, third. On-Site Cake Decorating Division II, Jillian Fisher, fourth. Scrapbook, 9 students, fourth. Campaign Skit, 35 students, second. SDT Dancer, Brooklyn Nelson, Madison Nelson, Olivia Starks, first. Show Choir, 32 students, second. Large Group Performing Arts, 85 students, first. South Carolina State Secretary, Callie Wright. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Thomas J. Hamilton, Jr., Mayor and Town Council members of the Town of Moncks Corner, County of Berkeley, State of South Carolina, do hereby acknowledge and applaud Berkeley High School Beta Club for their historical achievements, signed on this 21st day of April in the year of our Lord, 2026. Congratulations. Here, I'm gonna come in behind y'all fellas here, okay? Here, you hold it. And you can hold it too.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
And you wanna say a few words?
Oh, go ahead, girl.
Okay.
You know.
All right, well, congratulations, here you go.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next recognition is for Landon Jackson of Berkeley High School, National Wrestling Champion. Landon, can you and your family and coaches come up to the front? I'm going to let you go ahead and hold this out while I read it, and then we'll come and get some pictures with you. Honoring Berkeley High School wrestling champion Landon Jackson. Whereas the town of Moncks Corner is committed to recognizing individuals whose accomplishments bring honor, pride, and distinction to our community. And whereas the Berkeley High Stags wrestling program continues to exemplify excellence in discipline, dedication, and competitive spirit. And whereas Landon Jackson has demonstrated extraordinary athletic achievement throughout his high school wrestling career, earning an overall record of 89-6, remaining undefeated during his senior season, and establishing himself as one of the most accomplished athletes in the program's history. And whereas Landon's achievements include being a finalist in the Southeast Region Freestyle, a 3-time All-Region selection, a 3-time All-State selection, a 3-time state placer, a 2-time state finalist, a state champion, and now a national champion. And whereas these accomplishments reflect not only exceptional athletic ability, but also the values of perseverance, integrity, and leadership that the town of Moncks Corner proudly upholds. And whereas Landon's success serves as an inspiration to young athletes throughout our community and stands as a testament to what can be achieved through hard work, determination, and character. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Thomas J. Hamilton, Jr., and Council of the Town of Moncks Corner do hereby recognize and commend Landon Jackson for his outstanding athletic achievements and for bringing great honor to the Berkeley Stags, his school, and the citizens of the Town of Moncks Corner. In witness therefore, I, hereunto my hand, cause the seal of the town of Moncks Corner to be affixed on this 21st day of April 2026. I also want to bring up Mr. J.D. Weiss. Please step up. Let me get through this. This might be tough. Landon was a teammate of J.D.'s son, Dalton. Now I'm going to read what was written for me, and I'm going to say a couple words out of my own heart. In the wake of the tragic loss of Officer J.D. Weiss's son, Dalton, who was also Landon's teammate, Landon showed extraordinary compassion, maturity, and loyalty. Throughout the family's grief, he continually checked in on Officer Weiss and his loved ones, offering support that brought comfort during their darkest moments. During one of those conversations, Landon made a promise. He is with me, and I'm going all the way to nationals, and we're going to win. With heart, determination, and brotherhood, Landon kept that promise. His victory is more than a personal triumph. It is a tribute to a teammate gone too soon, a symbol of unity, and a reminder of the strength we find when we honor one another. This young man is a man of character, compassion, and grace. Thank you for being who you are. Everyone act like you like each other.
Move over in front of the seal. There you go, Landon, right here.
Get center.
You're in the center. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Now we're going to have a presentation of the SS4A Safety Action Plan draft. Whew, I had a tough one.
You can give everybody time to clear out.
Yeah, we'll let y'all clear out before we resume. Whew. All right, we have Mr. Josh Mitchell with Stantec who will present to us tonight.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for the opportunity to present. As mentioned, I'm presenting on the town's SS4A Safety Action Plan, and the goal today is to give an overview, an update of the plan, and then a summary of draft recommendations. And then getting ahead of myself a little bit, but we'll come back to next month's meeting and present the final plan for your consideration and adoption. So I'd like to start with the why, and the why for this safety plan is really to save lives. And so about once a month, someone is seriously injured or killed in a crash on our streets, whether it's a pedestrian or in a vehicle. And that's really what the program seeks to address. And then the other reason why is that the SS4A program, the federal program, has funding available for these types of plans so that we can improve safety on our roadways. The SS4A program has a structure defined to it, and so our plan is adhering to that structure. Won't get into all those points, but we follow that plan. Everything is context and unique to this town, but it really follows that structure and to make sure that we're compliant with FHWA's program. And undergirding that plan is a safe system approach, which really in a sentence is, we recognize that there's going to be mistakes on our roadways, but how do we design our system? How do we educate our drivers to minimize those mistakes and minimize the severity when those mistakes do happen? Obviously, a couple months ago, the town committed to a Vision Zero by 2040. And so this plan is really the first step towards that, or a continuing step towards that goal. And so I want to start with kind of, and our plan starts with where are crashes occurring. And so as you'll see on the screen, the hot spots are really at some of those intersections that you might expect along the town's major corridors, along 52, Main Street, and 17A, which became the focus of the plan. And particularly, this plan and the program overall is interested in where are fatal and severe and serious injury crashes occurring. So those locations were of particular interest in the plan as well. And a key metric is really the trend of those types of severe crashes is increasing in the past 10 years. That trend line is up, and so the plan, we really want to reduce that and bring that back down to zero. Interestingly, and we'll talk about this a little bit, but pedestrians and what we call vulnerable road users were a key population that are suffering and are victims of some of these crashes. And then looking at the types of crashes, we see a lot of angle and single vehicle crashes, so crashes at intersections, T-bones, and people departing the roadway as well. Well, I talked about vulnerable road users. Where are those types of crashes occurring? Again, those are pedestrians or cyclists. They're really in the northern half of town, but it's really along 52 between 17A and the canal. So another key emphasis area of the SS4A program is risk factors. So not just where have crashes occurred, but where might they occur in the future. And so what we look at is from the crash data, what is overrepresented in some of those bad crashes. And so some of those factors are unbelted. Obviously, that's a key consideration. And for example, only 2% of all crashes involved an unbelted participant, but almost a quarter of the serious crashes had someone who wasn't wearing their seatbelt. So, right off the bat, that is a key risk factor. But some of the other ones include nighttime, impaired, like I mentioned, single vehicle or run off the road, and then those pedestrian or bicycle users, and then of course high speed. So we look at those risk factors to make sure that we're targeting where crashes might occur in the future as well. We had some community engagement so far, and we're continuing with that into the future as well. But just a smattering of comments that we received. The key takeaway is the improvements folks wanted to see most, from what we heard, was turn lane improvements, signalized intersection improvements, more pedestrian walkways, and then additional signage and markings. So getting into kind of the meat of the study, and it's a little bit technical here, but I want to talk about it because it's important to how we get to our ultimate recommendations. We really look at 3 layers of analysis. One is the high injury network, which is really where have crashes occurred. One is the high risk network, so where's the risk for crashes to occur in the future. And then the community network, which is what have we heard from the public, from the community, from the town, where do folks want to see improvement. The sliding window analysis is just we use a geographical information system and we move along the corridors and assign scores to each segment so that we can prioritize locations for improvements. So starting again with that high injury network, on all these maps where you see the darker or thicker line, those are higher score. You can read that as less safe or more problematic areas that we want to address. And so we assign scores based on severity of crashes in the past. A fatal crash gets a high score because we want to address that pattern of crash. The high-risk network is really looking at roadway features. As you can see by the red, most of the town roadways are on that risk network, so display some of those characteristics that we consider risky. And then the community-based network, really those lines, the shading of the lines indicates where we heard comments from the public. And again, a lot of them on that 52 corridor, but at some of those other key intersections, 17A in Main and 52 down towards the south, towards Cypress Gardens as well. So we layer all of that together, and we have a weighted score to come up with what we call our priority investment network. And so this is really our prioritization of corridors and segments. And so where you see the darker green or the thicker line, those were the highest scoring corridors. And we go from there to what kind of termini make sense for investment projects or for corridors that make sense for recommendations. And we came up with 7. And so this covers much of the town, but these 7 corridors, and we'll talk about them a little bit more in detail, but they cover the lion's share of the historical crashes as well as what we heard from the community. So we're really trying to address, in as short a distance as we can, where are those targeted improvements necessary. Before I get into some of the specific recommendations, I just want to show this on the screen to mention the FHWA, the SS4A program, has a list of countermeasures from which to pull. And so this is our starting point. And we want to be kind of in line with what the feds say to look at for better success at getting additional funding in the future. I want to talk about some of those specific countermeasures because they come up on a lot of these safety action plans, and Moncks Corner is no different. And one is access management. And so when I use that term, what I mean typically is raise median to control access. And the movement we're really concerned about is left turn leaving a driveway. That's the most complicated and least safe movement, especially at an unsignalized intersection. But I want to mention the U-turn bulbs. And what we're really intending to do there is, if we're going to control access, we've got to have additional connectivity options. We've got to have places for U-turns, not just telling people, hey, go figure it out, we've restricted your turns. We need to give people an option, and a real option geometrically. So that's included in our planning as well. Mid-block crossings for pedestrians, there's a number of ways we can do that, from RRFBs, which are just a warning device which flashes if there's a pedestrian, all the way down to pedestrian signals, which is more traditional. Hey, when it's red, you stop, you let the pedestrian cross. So those are part of the plan as well. Leading pedestrian interval is just getting a pedestrian out into the crosswalk in advance. It gives them a little better sight as vehicles are making turns. Reduce conflict intersection. This is similar to access management. We're restricting that left out from a driveway, but we're giving people express U-turn locations. The example on the screen is actually at Oakley along 52, and this significantly improves safety by reducing conflict points. And then offset left turns, this is another example on 52, is really getting people appropriate sight distance so that they can make a left turn. You'll hear me say left turn a lot. Those are the critical movements where crashes frequently occur. All right, so getting into those corridors, and these are not necessarily numbered in priority, the C1 through C8, although the C1 does happen to be the one that had some of the higher scoring segments. And the key recommendations here are access management, some additional pedestrian facilities, crossing locations, some turn lane improvements, lighting. There are a lot of night crashes on this corridor, and some, like I mentioned, some right turn radius improvements so we can control some of those speeds on this location. C2, which is just further down US 52, closer to Rembert Dennis. Similarly, access management is a key recommendation here, along with lighting, and then some additional connectivity considerations with new signalized intersections. US 17A, which is our C3. Similarly, some access management, not as much, not as corridor wide. It's more spot access management. Some additional lighting as well. A key location here is at Benoit and Hetley, where we understand some of that serpentine movement to be an issue. So that would be a location for recommended access management to control at least some of those movements to make that area safer. Moving down to what is labeled C4, which is US 52, closer to Cypress Gardens. The key intersection, the key recommendation here is at Red Leaf. This is a lot of serious injury crashes occurring here, largely with the left turn leaving the driveway. And so the recommendation here is that R-cut intersection, very similar to what is at Oakley today. C5 and C6, these ended up kind of being combined together since they're really a similar nature of corridor. The key recommendations here, there's a lot of mid-block crosswalks, and so adding those rapid flashing beacons to those crosswalks, some spot lighting improvements, some signalized intersection improvements, including at Main and Broughton, some realignment and the left turn lane there as well. At C7, which is along Cypress Gardens Road, kind of some signing and marking, some speed limit changes, just having a consistent 45-mile-per-hour speed limit. It changes frequently through that section, and some additional signage as you're approaching curves to let you know that a curve is coming so you know to reduce speed. So some kind of low-hanging fruit on this corridor as well. And then along US 52, we call it C8. This is kind of the midpoint of 52. Some striping changes here and some offset left turn lanes. We're really trying to give people appropriate sight distance. And then a key intersection at Barron is a new traffic signal there. So, these are my closing slides. So policy is a part of the program as well. So we want to look at recommendations from a geometric standpoint, but we want to pair policy changes with that. And so we've developed near-term and long-term policy recommendations for consideration, and these largely have to do with how could land development regulations, how could complete streets policy, maybe speed limit policy, pair with some of these geometric improvements so that in the future, as roadway changes come up, we're designing roadways the way we want them in a safe manner. And to close, our next steps is we'll have our final stakeholder and public involvement meeting actually here in this room tomorrow evening from 4 to 7. We will finalize our safety action plan report, and we'll bring that to you next month for your consideration and adoption. Unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Yes, sir, I have some questions. So basically, you've identified a lot of stuff that the citizens and us on council and the mayor live in and day out. My question to you is, with these problematic areas, where do we go from identifying the problem? Because a lot of these roads are owned by the county and South Carolina Department of Transportation. Then, I mean, we can tell them, hey, we need this. This has been recommended, but where does the funding come from? Grants?
Yes, in part. And in fact, the SS4A program has a planning grant, which is what this study is being done through. It also has an implementation grant, which is higher dollar funding sources for actually implementing some of your key projects. So we are seeking that grant application now. We're preparing that with the intention to submit that in the next month, through the same program. And then other funding sources are identified, like you said, working through DOT and some of their existing safety programs through the county. And there's a number of overlapping projects in the hopper. And so one of our tasks is make sure, how do we not duplicate effort? And where can we kind of use the findings of this study and come alongside some of those other funding sources?
What is a typical time frame once you identify these problems to where there's true implementation?
Well, I'll say this program from FHWA is only 3 years old, and so I don't know that those timelines are established, but typically when you go for the grant, you find out within a calendar year, and then that funding is distributed, and then you get into your design and construction, which would follow a typical design construction timeline of it would be a few years at that point.
Okay. And my last point is, one of the problematic areas that you pointed out on a prior slide is something we've been discussing up here as council, and something that's probably going to be brought before us tonight, and that's a right in, right out with medians in the middle, not going across 4 lanes of highway turning left. How do we implement that when that's a DOT issue? So if we adopt this plan, what we've paid you to do, and then we go out and approve something that completely contradicts this, where does that leave us?
You mean something at a location that this plan has identified, but what's actually
As a problematic area, right in, right out?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the plan is recommendations. It's not the Bible. And so I'd say, things do change, and different considerations may change that require a different treatment than what the plan recommends. The plan is meant to serve as a guideline moving forward, and but we know that things do change and other restraints come into play. In terms of coordinating with DOT, they are a stakeholder and part of the stakeholder team on this project. But yes, on a DOT road, we would of course make sure that it aligns with their design standards and with their blessing. If that, I don't know if I've answered the question, but.
Somewhat.
Okay.
Clear as mud. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We had on our schedule an awards presentation for the police department, but we moved that to next month. Approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes, March 17th, 2026. I have a motion. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Approval of minutes for special meeting, April 13th, 2026. Motion. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? None. All right. Town Hall Design Workshop, April 13th. Do I have a motion? Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Mayor's report. Get through this as quick as I can. It's turning into the busy season. All right, on March 19th, I joined the fire department as they hosted the 4-H club for a tour of the fire station. 320 attended career day at Fox Bank Elementary, where both the fire and police departments were also present. Also on the 20th, I treated the community development team to lunch at Swig and Swine to thank them for their long hours and dedication. We also invited Chief Jackson to celebrate his birthday. On the 21st, I attended a youth symposium at Roper Hospital, joined again by police and fire departments who were also in attendance. On the 21st and 22nd, we kicked off the first travel ball weekend of the year at the newly refurbished fields. We got a lot of great compliments from the teams that showed up. On the 21st, I was invited to the Kittville community meeting where Chiefs Richardson and Jackson were also in attendance, just trying to keep a bridge with the other areas of our community. The 24th, the GM tailgate tour made a stop in our Low Country's hometown. We had a tremendous turnout. I don't think we was expecting as many people to come out as did. 326, I participated in the LIBA Live at Yaden Physical and Integrated Medical, where they evaluated my balance. Those who watch knows that I don't have much balance. So 326, I also spent time in the field with our Chief Building Inspector, Bob Bruno. I call him Bob the Builder. Observing several inspections, we did a residential plumbing inspection, a foundation for cookout, solar battery installation for a homeowner, and we went over to the Aldi Chipotle complex, and he gave me a tour of that as well. Also on 326, Recreation Director Libba Rentz and I judged the Berkeley Middle School Talent Show, awarding first, second, and third place cash prizes. Some really talented young people there. On the 28th, I served as a judge for the St. Stephen Catfish Festival Catfish Stew Competition. The winning stew was outstanding. The 31st, we celebrated opening days of the Miracle League, and it was truly inspiring. Matt Fluharty has done an exceptional job leading the effort. Every Monday and Tuesday, if I'm not here on a Tuesday, you'll find me at the Miracle League. If you or your organization would like to volunteer for buddies, we could really use them. 4-1, I attended the swearing in of the new police officer. I truly enjoy those because you get to meet their families. Also on 4-1, I attended rec night at Berkeley High School, where young players joined the athletes on the field during the national anthem, and I made sure that all our kids had hot dogs and drinks. On the 2nd, we opened the season's first farmers market. I rang the bell to kick it off. We had a great crowd, and of course, every Thursday that I'm in town, I'll be at the farmers market. Please come out and see me. 4-6, we also had our first Music on Main of the year with the Custom 4 and Friends. I usually try to catch the back half of that. 4-10, I joined the fire department at Moncks Corner Baptist Church for a community food giveaway. Events like this highlight the strong community involvement of our fire department and our police department. 4-11, we hosted our spring Picking in the Corner event. The weather was beautiful, the music was great, and the vendors were busy selling. Councilman Dingle also come out and joined us. 4-12, Recreation Director Libba Rentz and I visited Santee Canal Park to collect a donation for the Celebrate the Season event in the amount of $13,453.50. We really appreciate our partnership that we have with Santee Cooper. 4-18, the fire department held their first open house at the Fox Bank Fire Station in partnership with Hoover of Moncks Corner, featuring a physical ability demonstration and a vehicle extradition demonstration using a vehicle donated by Hoover. Council members Lloyd and Dennis attended. I also did their 13-station physical fitness test under the 8 minutes it's required. It about killed me, but it was fun. And this is where I want to thank our community, our businesses, and our town council, because those 13 stations, that's each station represents something that happens in a structure fire. And we had a very serious structure fire in Pimlico yesterday that had an explosion. And luckily, all our firefighters were safe, and the one firefighter from Pimlico that did get injured is okay. But that highlights the need for this type of equipment so that our people are properly trained so when they get in these situations. So I think it's amazing that our town council makes sure that our emergency responders has the equipment that they need. 418, I attended the Berkeley High School ROTC ball where I presented several awards and, of course, a cash prize for Cadet of the Year. What's really cool is the Cadet of the Year is almost an Eagle Scout, and his dream job is to be a fireman at the town of Moncks Corner. So let's hope that we see him soon. 419, I was invited to the Moncks Corner Indian Association Award Ceremony for the final match of the Moncks Corner Premier Cricket League, Season 2 at Big and Trail. Chiefs Richardson and Jackson and his wife come out and presented trophies. They let each of us and my wife go out and take a pitch and bat a few balls, and it's not as easy as you would think. Upcoming events, this Friday we have Lighted Up in Blue from 7 to 8:30 p.m. at Unity Park to raise awareness for autism. Everyone is encouraged to wear blue to show support. Chief Jackson actually shared this idea with us after seeing it carried out in Chester, and we're excited to bring it to our community as well. That's the end of my report. Administrator's report, Jeff Lord.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, out of respect for the rest of the agenda, I only have 2 items to update you on. First of them is the NRCS grant program. We finally got that kicked off, and our intent was to have our first public meeting in May. However, with our last meeting, we were told that everything that we prepare has to go to Washington for review. So right now, our timeline is, we don't know, but we're trying to get those approvals as soon as we can. And when we do, then we'll be able to announce the public meeting and we'll start with the property purchases and then move on into the actual improvements in the branch. So I just want to let you know we're a little slow on that. The other thing is with Lacey Park, our second bid is due next Tuesday. So hopefully we'll have that project for you to approve at the next council meeting. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to address them.
Okay, thank you. New business, consideration demolition assistance bids for property located at 106 Carolina Avenue. Community Director Westbrook.
Yes, sir. Good evening, council. The request in front of you tonight, staff has had interactions with the property owner to demo this house, or at least bring it up to code. The house is subject to a lot of different code violations, both building code and property maintenance code. The house is on Carolina Avenue, a block from here, highlighted in the red. It's zoned in the commercial area, so it cannot be converted back to a residence. That was problematic with the obviously it's been vacant for quite some time, and to bring it up to commercial code would require a significant amount of, it needs to be torn down. It's the only other alternative. So the applicant or the property owner approached us about participating in our demolition assistance. If you're not familiar with that, essentially what that is the town receives 3 bids on what it takes to take it all the way down to the pad, and I believe the removal of the pad, clean the property up, and haul off all the debris. We received 3 quotes. The quote that staff is recommending is from Action Abatement Incorporated and is in your packet. With the program, essentially the applicant provides a letter stating, obviously they've already requested this be heard by y'all to start the process, but then they pay a 10% fee not to exceed $1,000. So there is some financial buy-in from them, and we are working with that property owner to have some sort of resolution on this ongoing problem. So that's the request in front of you. This is the house on Carolina. If you're not familiar with it, obviously it's in some shape. This is, all these pictures are looking from Carolina Avenue, directly across the street from a law firm, and down the street from Main Street. Obviously windows are open, boards are falling off, windows are broken. It is in some shape. So I'm available for any questions should you have any, but staff's recommendation is to go with the lowest bidder, and then we can move on from there and work with the property owner to get this cleaned up pretty quick.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Old business, second reading and public hearing. Consider a conditional zoning map amendment, CZ-26-01, request for two parcels, TMS 142-08-04-012 and 013, totaling a little under 5.58 acres located at 402 Wall Street. The parcels are requesting to be zoned conditional zoning, residential, single-family, CZR2, Community Development, Westbrook.
Yes, sir, this is the second reading and public hearing for this request. This is R2 to CZ. R2 is single-family detached lots, 8,500 square foot lots. It's allowed, the zoning ordinance allows for 21 units, 5 dwelling units per acre. Realistically, staff feels that we can get about 11 on that property should a developer do it by right. The surrounding neighborhood, going from the railroad tracks over to 52 and from 17A down to the park, results in about 2.1 dwelling units per acre. 137 units over 65 acres-ish. So this is kind of in line, realistically, with what the neighborhood sees. The neighborhood sees a full gamut of lots from a couple thousand square feet all the way up to about 13,000 square feet. The two properties in question are highlighted in the red. You see Wall Street to the north, our rep facility to the south. The property is zoned R2, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, and obviously the rest of the neighborhood is zoned R2. You see the railroad tracks, and just off the screen on the far right is 52. You see 17 in the park facility. There is a little bit of environmental challenges. Obviously, that is going to be taken care of at the preliminary plat stage to ensure that our 20-foot buffer on the wetlands is maintained and adhered to, as well as all of our other stormwater requirements. Now, something that has changed in working with the developer since he last met with y'all, I know he met with some town leaders, myself, and some others, and some community leaders to make sure that we were above board, and we had a better presentation, or at least he had a better presentation to y'all. So to express that a little bit, the request that y'all have always heard, that Planning Commission heard, was a minimum lots, or minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. That is not the number of lots he can get on there. He originally showed 15. The request has always been 6,000. On new plan, and you can see the date on there, which is April 8th, so a mere couple weeks ago, he can now get 17 lots. Still the same density, or still the same minimum lot size, setbacks, and everything else. So they found a way to engineer, and that tends to happen with regards to when you dig into things, you start to find places where you can flex. So the site plan is a little different. It is an exhibit as part of the attached ordinance to adopt. One thing that staff did notice was the parking lot highlighted in red changed a little bit. We will work on that to make sure that adheres to just normal site triangle standards and access. It's a little close to Wall Street for my liking. The previous example showed it more having a neck and a little bit of stacking space, but that is where additional parking that Planning Commission has made very clear they'd like to see, as well as staff, just good planning practices, along with the clustered mailbox unit, which is required by USPS. So that being said, the plan hasn't changed exceedingly much except for the additional 2 units. However, the minimum square foot of his lot and all the other setbacks, including lot coverage, has not changed at all. So they found a way to flex 2 more lots, but the dimensional standard, which was the request, is still the same. That being said, how does that line up? Again, as I mentioned, it went from 15 to 17. It does raise the dwelling units per acre from 2.69 to 3. That falls in line with other things we've seen, Village Square and Casabo Meadows, Oakley Point, Halstead. Now, that falls in line with what we've seen. What is the request? The request is to reduce it down to 6,000 square foot lots. How we handle that is we make sure that the developer starting at 12,000 goes down and buys their density down. How they've done that originally was a community revitalization fee. If you remember from my last meeting, staff was not in favor of this mechanism for a couple different reasons, which I talked to at length previously. But in talking with the town leaders, the community leaders, and the developer has had the idea to nix that. They still will provide the community leaders and the community at large with funding to make sure that that is taken care of, that their impact on the community is offset, and that the community can continue to invest in itself. Staff has a very limited role in this. However, we will make sure, working with Mr. Liferidge and other community leaders, to make sure that the final plat is held before we release it, to ensure that the developer follows through. I believe Mr. Liferidge and other leaders were okay and complimentary to that mechanism. Although we can't hold it, we will do our best to make sure that the developer is being a good community partner, and we have no reason to suggest otherwise at this point. So additional parking went up 10% and product mix went up to 10% as well. So that is where we get the 50% buy down. So that has changed since the last meeting as well. Again, the comp plan is in line with this request. You can see it's surrounded by town character residential. It is in harmony with 3 goals implementation strategies. As I mentioned, the neighborhood revitalization fee, which is double dipping, that has now ceased to exist, but there's still that financial buy-in from the developer to the community, which was very important by all parties. It limits 3 homes per floor plan, which is above and beyond what our zoning ordinance requires. Planning Commission recommended approval. Staff recommends approval now. That is a change as well. We heard this on February 24th by Planning Commission. Y'all recommended approval, or they recommended approval then. Y'all approved the first reading March 17th, and we are here April 21st for the final second reading. I'm available for any questions. Davis McNair is in the audience as well before you open it up to a public hearing.
Motion to approve the requested conditional zoning, single-family residential.
I got to do a public meeting,
We're
right?
gonna amend the
Oh,
motion.
okay,
A second.
all right.
Vote. Take the vote.
All right, is there anyone from the public here for this development? Okay. So any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Second reading and public hearing, consider a zoning map amendment, ZA-26-01, request for 2 parcels, TMS 162-00-01-018 and 059, totaling 13.18 acres, located at 1190 Ben Barron Road. The parcel is requesting to be zoned Industrial Park M2. Community Development Director Westbrook.
Yes, sir. This is a good housekeeping request by the applicant of, and the property owner of these 2 parcels. The parcels are currently zoned PDR, but does not have any standards currently attached to them. It was a mechanism in place for the town to grow in earlier years, and in this case, it's a way to clean that up a little bit. The 2 parcels on Ben Barron Road are surrounded by mostly undeveloped property. The properties to the north we will get into later on a different agenda item, but you can see 058 to the west is adjacent to it. It's a scrapyard, existing scrapyard. There are no requests to change anything. There are no plans to add on to their facility. They just want to make sure, and generally speaking, this is usually used for financing purposes and refinancing purposes to make sure they're above board. When staff gets a rezoning or a zoning verification letter, we've got to say if this use is allowed or not. And in this case, because of the PDR, it would not be. So they are trying to make themselves righteous, and which is exactly what they're doing right now. The property, as you can see, is in zone purple, which is PDR. However, that property to the west, which is part of this project, is M2. You have M1, which is the light industrial across the street. Again, industrial park is planned development, industrial parks, modern administrative facilities for landscape campus-like settings. And again, obviously, adding the parcels and over parcels kind of adds to that, but limited manufacturing industrial uses is an allowed use, so it fits nicely to that. It is part of the comprehensive plan and does fall into that use of the employment district, which is highlighted here in the purple. Obviously, industry brings employment and vice versa, so therefore it fits nicely with that. It is aligns with one of the goals and implementation strategies and is adjacent to existing M2. Planning Commission heard this February 24th, recommended approval. Staff recommends approval. Y'all heard this March 17th, and here we are tonight on the public hearing and second reading of April 21st. I'm available for any questions should you have any.
Motion to approve.
Second. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Second reading and public hearing. Consider a zoning map amendment, ZA-26-02, request for 4 parcels, TMS 142-07-04-011, 012, 014, 032, totaling around 4.19 acres located at 106 Church Street. The parcels are requesting to be zoned general commercial. Community Director Westbrook.
Yes, sir. Another simple, slight twist, but simple request. Y'all previously heard, the property is zoned transitional district. The transitional district serves as a fluctuating type zoning district between commercial and retail. I think very, very low impact commercial. The problem with it is it doesn't allow any commercial. So that's something we are working on with the new UDO. But with that said, it does defer to a lot of residential standards, particularly with signage, which is the lion's share of the reason for this request for y'all tonight. The property is located on both sides of Church Street on 17A and comprises most, if not all, of the campus of the United Methodist Church here in town. You can see 008, which is the Baptist Church on the corner of 6 and 17A. The property is zoned, that pale yellow on that side of Live Oak is TD. Unfortunately, the other pale yellows are R1, but you can see adjacent to this across the street is 026, which is under development, which I believe is a dental office and another unit, and then 019 is the Piggly Wiggly. So it is conducive to the comp plan and the natural growth of 17A turning into a commercial corridor. General commercial allows for the full gamut of everything and anything. Obviously, this is an established church. I don't think they have any plans to go anywhere. It's been there for a while. I think they'll be here for a while. Permitted uses do run the gamut, so I will tell you that is a risk, but in the grand scheme of things, it's an established user with no plans to move or relocate. That being said, it does follow into the comp plan with small-scale neighborhood-level services, which the church falls nicely into that, along heavily traveled roadways. As you can see here, it is part of the neighborhood mixed use, within line, within reason. One can make that argument. Commercial uses could include medical offices and other uses, so that kind of fits nicely. It also falls in lines with the mixed-use overlay along 17A, which this is complementary of. And it, as I mentioned, C2 is compatible use of intensifying North Live Oak or 17A and does fall in line with 2 goals and implementation strategies. Planning Commission recommended approval on February 24th. Staff also concurs. Y'all heard this March 17th, and tonight's the public hearing and second reading on April 21st. I'm available for any questions should you have.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Second reading and public hearing, consider a zoning map amendment ZA-25-04, request for one parcel, TMS 162-00-01-017, totaling 30.3 acres, located on US Highway 52. The parcel would be zoned planned development to allow single-family detached dwelling units, commercial development, and dedicated civic recreation space. Community Development Director Westbrook.
Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
I request a recuse.
Yes.
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, this is one parcel, about 30 acres. It's adjacent to Moss Grove, currently also zoned PDC. The original intention of this property was to be the commercial aspect of Moss Grove, but through records and things of that nature, it's difficult to tie down exactly what the standards are. So this is another good housekeeping bill. The property here is highlighted in that blue across the street directly from this parcel on 52 is Berkeley Electric Co-op. You can see Moss Grove on the other side of that lake where it says 060, and obviously 52 bisects the screen. This is the plan, the most up-to-date plan that I'm aware of. You can see most of the residents on the left-hand side. It's broken up into 3 different districts, but the left-hand side is one district, which is almost all of the residents. You can see the middle district, which is those pink little buildings inside. Those are commercial areas with a little bit more residential, and obviously the last district, which is on the far right hand of the screen, are 2 ball fields that will be built to the developer to the town specs and then donated to the town for ownership and maintenance. You also see walking trails and a variety of landscape standards in that, and architectural standards are part of this as well, so it gets better. The good news is that we heard what town council had to say, as well as working with the developer, and they have agreed that the bare minimum is 25,000 square feet of retail up front. There are circuit breakers in the development agreement, which is going to be the next agenda item, that basically ensures that that development occurs coincidentally with the residential. So they're not just gonna build the 78 residentials and be done and hope the commercial gets done. It is now tied directly to that through inspections and CO, so that's the good news. The better news is 25,000 square feet is the minimum. They can go up to 60,000 to my knowledge and understanding. There are some experts in the audience that could speak a little bit more intelligently than I do on this and clarify some things, but ultimately the goal is when we have mixed developments, they develop in a mixed fashion, not one and then hopefully the other comes after. The cottage district, which I spoke on, which was the primary detached, 3,000 square foot minimum lot sizes, so some small lot sizes. However, the design criteria and architectural review, which we have some photos here later, that Planning Commission approved previously for recommending, and y'all have seen once, ensures that this development occurs within what y'all are seeing tonight. It makes sure that when we show you all pretty pictures, those pretty pictures are enforced by staff. So when we get developers and builders who want to build and slap up anything, it doesn't turn into another fight. Very similar to our architectural standards that we previously visited recently, where it gives staff a little bit more teeth in our negotiating authority. So Architectural Review Board should kind of take care of itself and make sure that this development does develop aesthetically in the way that y'all are seeing tonight. Again, these are some of the developments Synchronicity, which is the developer's partner, has provided. So you can see some of the homes with some porches on front and some sheds, very Charlestonian with some shotgun style houses. Again, I'm sure I'm butchering this. Todd Richardson's gonna clean all this up for me. But it is very walkable, it's very neighborhood, Americana. The Market Village, which is the middle, is not just commercial for the sake of commercial. We did prohibit some uses or recommend to prohibit it, and the applicant has agreed to. Tobacco, vape stores, adult stores, pawn stores, gas stations, fast food, things of that nature have all been eliminated. So this is going to be more neighborhood commercial. It's gonna be walkable. It's gonna be accessible by 3 different parties. The residents plan for this development, the visitors plan for this development for the retail as well as the parks, and with adjacent trails that we hope to continue to work on, Moss Grove and other neighborhoods, which in the vicinity that doesn't have direct access, but hopefully doesn't have to use 52 to access these services and these retail aspects. Again, this is looking at the commercial from the ball fields. You can see the ball field to the right. There are 2 different sizes, I believe 228 feet. Max is one of them, and the other one, I apologize, I can't say off the top of my head. You see a basketball court is there in there as well. I think at least 1, possibly 2 pavilions, one of them with bathrooms. Again, all developed at the cost of the developer to the town specs as per our recreation standard, and then obviously donated to the town for both ownership and maintenance. Again, this looks back at that square. If you remember the overall site plan, you can see the red areas with a nice little town square style feel. So it's not just a place for commerce, it's also a place for gathering. You can see some of the architecture proposed. The Architectural Review Board should step up and make sure that this is aesthetically pleasing within the guidelines, both their standards, which is part of the PD, as well as tonight's and other developments happening in the area. The Civic Park, as I mentioned, 2 ball fields, 200 foot, 225, I apologize about that. A full-size basketball court, 2 pavilions, food truck parking. So again, this is a place of not only commerce and living, but also gathering as well in a sense of community. The property is on PDC, as I mentioned, that dark purple. It's adjacent to the PDR, which is the Moss Grove. It does fall in line with the 78 units, over 30 acres being 2.57. It's slightly less dense than the previously heard Wall Street. A little more dense than DeSable Meadows, which is currently under construction. Traffic impact analysis will be done at every step of this project. They will be funded and installed by the developer final plat, and I'm proud to say that the developer is actually taking a proactive approach, and we are currently working on a TIA now with the developer. So hopefully we can have this all teed up and there's no lag on that, but we understand the challenges with 52, Ben Barron, and some other developments, as we'll get into that later. Median plantings obviously goes without saying, but that will be installed as per the town's policy of median plantings up and down 52 from the viaduct all the way down south to Fox Bank. This is kind of a multimodal diagram where you can see in purple all the sidewalks. The blue is a golf cart path. The golf cart wide, I believe it's 10 feet wide, paved, and then you can have the green path around the lake where it will be a higher standard beyond gravel, but it won't be quite the paved golf cart path, and slightly smaller, I think 8, maybe 6 feet. So it provides more amenities, more outdoor features to the development. There are wetlands on the property. There are some flood challenges on the property. Nothing y'all do tonight will absolve them of any standards the town already has. In fact, one of the arguments that staff made with the developer and we've agreed to is we will, in your packet, is an agreement to ensure that the culvert under 52 is looked at, engineered and designed to make sure that this development not only helps with that, but definitely does not add to it as well, because we do have some challenges and we've seen that during some environmental impacts and rain events. Prior to preliminary plat, each district will ensure environmental concerns, and that also goes in line with the TIA, per the adopted policies, guidances, ordinances of the development. This is the floodplain. Everything in hatched is the wetlands. The wetlands are a key. It is not the end-all be-all. The delineation will provide that from the Army Corps. You can see some of the filled-in areas is floodplain. The floodway is not on the property. It does skirt very closely to that, and I'm sure the developer will be able to help me fill in that a little bit as well. This is the format provided by FEMA, but the applicant provided this to staff, so you can see the outline of the property in yellow. So there is some challenges, and here's some water and wetland areas, and again, you can kind of see the lake of Moss Grove butting up against that northwestern property line there. And again, this is another wetlands map, delineation map approximate, provided by the developers associates, Ecological Associates Incorporated. The comp plan is in line with this it is gonna be automotive dependent, unfortunately. Being on 52, that's come to expected. Light industrial uses, not quite there, but sales, groceries, food, banks, stations and such, some of these uses have been stripped out at the developer's request to ensure that this is a smooth process and obviously development everybody can be proud of. It is within line with the highway commercial future land use map, and staff feels it is in harmony with the goals and mitigation strategies of the comp plan y'all approved in 2024. Staff recommends approval. And I apologize, the slide's reversed. They did recommend, planning commission did recommend the plan development in June 2025. Town council heard this first in August of 2025. That's how long we've been working on it with the developer, and the DA comes in between that, which will be the next agenda item. Currently, we're here for the second reading and public hearing. I know the developer, Chris Young of Stio, as well as Todd Peterson of Synchronicity is here. Josh Lilly from Stantec, which is their engineer of record, I believe, available for any questions. I'm available for any questions should you have any, and I welcome.
Do I have a motion?
After looking at the, no? Oh, we got to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Now, public hearing, if you would like to come up and speak at the public hearing, one at a time, come to the podium, give me your name and address, and then you have 3 minutes. Well, you have as long as you want on this.
No, it's just, I have a question.
Well, I need your name and address.
Knight Carter, 1349 Old Cherry Hill Road, Moncks, South Carolina.
Thank you. Okay.
Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. My question was, does the TIA address, I guess, the infrastructure with all these additional units coming in? You know, what does that do for the traffic on 52, traffic on 17A? Has there been some consideration as to how we address that? Is that TIA or what?
Partially, a TIA mainly is designed to look at congestion at intersections and to ensure that the level of service at those intersections do not dip of what they currently see. So if we grade it A through D, anything less than what it currently is has to be brought up into standards to make sure that existing traffic doesn't see any more impacts than it normally would. And so intersection improvements will be looked at. But unfortunately, TIAs are limited to the areas immediately adjacent to the property being developed. So will this look at 52, Old 52 and RC Dennis? No, ma'am, it will not. That's one of the reasons why staff is working with our consultants for SS4A to make sure all of our networks are looked at.
So in essence, you're only looking at the intersections and not the flow of traffic?
Unfortunately, TIAs really look at congestion. They don't look at the impacts of volume.
I'd ask if they might look at that.
Well, we're doing the whole study. If you was here earlier, you seen the SS4. That's doing the whole Moncks Corner. We're looking at all the traffic coming through. That's what that study's doing. Ma'am?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm Dr. Rose Dolores Gibbs, Panopolis. My question is, if this plan goes through, when is it expected, date-wise, for it to be completed?
I would defer to the developer on that one. Staff is we don't have a good idea.
Okay, and the second part is, what schools will, I'm certain they will bring in, this will bring in an influx of students. And I'm always concerned with the schools and the town and the county. Are there plans for additional schools?
Well, that's the school board. That's not the town of Moncks Corner. That's the school district that does
I understand that, but there should be some, I would think that there would be some amalgamation in terms of the town and the school board.
I'll kind of go on a limb here and say that, you know, this particular one, 78 houses, right? You know, the town of Moncks Corner has been very proactive on growth. I've said we've approved 80 in my 3 years and turned away 1,100. We're going to have growth if it's smart and good for the town. You know, we turned away the Lazy Hill project that they just lifted the moratorium for 191 houses. They're going to have 5,000 to 6,000 houses go between Wynwood and Cane Bay. That's not what these developments are. But if they're good for the town, we have to look at that, right? If it's good for the town of Moncks Corner and its residents, because if we don't move forward and the county does do it, then the town doesn't benefit at all, but we could still get all the people, but we get none of the benefit and none of the help with financials. So that's why we look at it. The school district is building new schools, but that would be one to go to a school board meeting and ask them about. Okay. Anyone else? Any? Yes, any discussion?
Good evening. I think it's a beautiful looking project. I believe it's on the correct side of the road, so as far as left-hand turns are concerned. My biggest concern, and I think I addressed it with another parcel, was the wetlands. And I understand that we're going to make sure that they keep it as code or up to par. However, I'm just looking at this particular wetland, it's like the whole subdivision is a part of the wetland. And so that's my biggest concern, and I just want to make sure I express that.
If I may, real quick, I believe this is the project where it's a 100-year storm they'll be designed to, is that correct?
I believe both of them are,
Both of them.
it's not just this one.
Yeah, so the standard for our stormwater ordinance is that they design it to handle a 25-year storm. But per the agreement, they're going to design it to a 100-year storm, so it's a much higher level of handling the stormwater. And I believe Mr. Westbrook addressed the fact that these wetland maps are highly inaccurate, and they will do a wetlands on-site wetland study to determine where they actually are. And we find they shrink a lot when that happens. But yes, that was definitely a consideration.
Now, my next question to that would be, is there any reason that we don't have an updated wetland map? Like, is that something that's hard to get?
That's,
Because what we're showing is, hey, it's there.
Yeah.
Those are old federal maps.
yeah, that's federal.
Most of them are over 20 years old, and they just have to, I mean, it's all kind of fixed in the computer program.
They show where there is the potential for wetlands. And then it's up to the landowner, the developer, to send basically an engineer out there to inspect the property and delineate it.
And then we make a decision based off of 20 years of information, past information, which is,
No, at that point, once it's delineated, they,
20-year-old maps are probably based on 40 or 50-year-old information, and things have changed since then, and the new wetland study will, that's why we'll know when they do it now, which ones actually in wetlands will be affected by the wetlands.
Yeah, so the plan that you're seeing is the plan based on where they think the wetlands are. If they come in there and they delineate it and it's reduced, then they're gonna have to reduce the plan to match.
so just as they can come in and see that it may have been reduced, it could come back and say, oh, it's gotten worse. Is that correct?
No.
No?
No, they can reduce the area that can be
they
developed.
can't build, or else they'd have to get a permit through the Army Corps of Engineers. It would be outside of our
So
jurisdiction.
instead of building 79 units, they'd build 30 units or whatever.
And it may not be
So they
feasible.
would reduce their development to match what the wetlands are.
Mr. Dingle, if I may, as Mr. Dennis said, those maps are based on very old data. And the reason why to produce a map, particularly for a town-wide, is so difficult is you actually physically have to walk the property. There's 3 determinations for a wetlands delineation. You have to be certified by the Army Corps of Engineers. And those 3 determinations are physically being on the property at that moment, such as soil and the fauna that's growing on it and things of that nature. In this particular case, the developer's been proactive and hired ecological associates based on out of Johns Island, and this is where this map came from. So this shows where the jurisdictional wetlands are in relation. It shows a very small sliver around the northwest corner of that, and that is in stark contrast to your point to the hatched area that you see on this map. And to Mr. Davis's point, or Dennis's point, this map is based on where, as Mr. Sweatman said, the potential is. This is not actually mapped wetlands. This is assumed wetlands. And so the developer, and what we require before development happens is delineation by the Army Corps of Engineers, who's the only person who can determine where wetlands are. To your point, though, they can grow. They don't often. They usually shrink. But we will make sure that when the development comes in for a preliminary plat, this is addressed. This does not, anything y'all do tonight does not give them any ability to shrink them themselves. They have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers. And to Mr. Lord's point, if they can't fit 78 on there because there's more wetlands than they thought, they can't fit 78 on there.
And I can point to one specific example to you is the Kitfield development. When that was originally approved, it had a lot more units in it. Then when they did the delineation, they found it was a lot wider than they expected, and so it became a much smaller development.
Anyone else? Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Hey.
Okay, passes. Marilyn, can you do a roll call on that one for me, please?
Councilmember Ward. Aye. Councilmember.
Yes.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, thank you. All right, second reading and second public hearing, consider a development agreement, DA-25-01, request for one parcel, TMS 162-00-01-017, totaling 31.3 acres located on US Highway 52. The parcel would be zoned planned development, PD, to allow single-family detached dwelling units, commercial development, and dedicated civic recreation space, community development, Westbrook.
Yes, sir. This is the same.
Recused, yes, sir.
This is the same project, different request. Y'all know that I'm really, really good at terrible analogies. So a development agreement is the home insurance. The zoning is the mortgage. So in that case, this is the protections that the developer has along with the protections the town has. This is exactly where the thresholds I spoke of earlier on how many residential units they can produce before they have to do something with the commercial and the retail, that's in these details here. This is the second public hearing as required by state law and second reading of this. I'm available for any questions should you have any. I'm available.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, at this time, does anyone from the public want to talk about the agreement? Any other discussion? Marilyn, please poll the council.
Councilmember Ward. Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Chad? We're voting. We're polling.
Oh, we're going through roll call, my
Yeah.
apologies. Aye.
Okay. Second reading and public hearing, consider an annexation AN-24-03 and zoning map amendment request for 4 parcels, TMS 162-02-00-017, 162-02-00-019, 162-00-01-020, 162-00-01-029, and a portion of one parcel, 162-02-00-014. 5, total length 96.01 acres located on US Highway 52. The parcel would be zoned planned development, PD, to allow single-family detached dwelling units, civic space, and commercial development. Community Development Director Westbrook.
Yes, sir. This project is very similar to the last one. There will be two parts. This is the zoning. This is the second reading and public hearing for the plan development. The next agenda item will be the development agreement for the same project. It is 4 parcels with a portion of another parcel located on the corner of Ben Barron Road, essentially, and US 52. It's currently zoned heavy industrial in the county. These are the 4 parcels outlined in blue. You can see 3 large ones with a sliver connecting to 52 to, I guess, the big boxes, and then you can have the portion highlighted in the dashed area going back to Ben Barron, which is a portion of the church property. This is the plan, one of the concept plans for the development. In purple, you see commercial, very similar to the last agenda item. There are thresholds and minimums. The minimum here, I believe, is 50,000 square feet. That is also going to be in the DA, along with the threshold for the number of residential units, which I believe is 50, 25, and 25, in line with building permits, inspections, and COs. So the commercial on 52 is about 50,000. You see in blue will be a pickleball facility, very similar to the last request. This will be a town-owned facility built to our standards and donated to us by the developer and built at their cost. In the yellow, that is single-family detached. In previous versions, that used to have some single-family attached. It ranged the number, I believe, in 375. Since then, they heard loud and clear from council last time they were in front of y'all and reduced that down, eliminated the single-family attached. So this is single-family detached only, no townhomes. They have 2 different series, Series A and Series B, and they differ in size slightly, which we'll get into in a minute. And you can see there will be 3 entrances. There will be what I call the southern entrance, which is that sliver through the church property connecting to Ben Barron. There will be the middle entrance, which we'll talk about later, near the commercial, and there will be the northern entrance, which will be predominantly residential in nature on the other side of those store vintage warehouse on 52. The density, 316, roughly 3.29. So it's slightly more dense than Riverstone, slightly less dense than previously heard Wall Street tonight, as well as Village Square. The Series 2, like I mentioned, there was a Series A and Series B. There are 2 different types of residential units and lots. There is a Series A, approximately 60 of them, 6,600 square feet. So slightly larger than what is usually seen in a PD or CZ type negotiated district, and a Series B, 256. So the lion's share of the residential for this project, which is at 5,400. Not exactly 6,000, but it's not terribly far off. As you can see, the commercial and the recreation has different setbacks there. The commercial, 50,000 square feet, like I mentioned, 50%. They can build 158 homes right off the bat. However, the next 79 homes, we have to have a site plan, which costs significant amount of financial capital for engineering, and it's got to be approved through staff to make sure that wetlands, setbacks, lighting, parking, everything, the whole smash is addressed, including ADA and building code. At that point, once the site plan is approved, that's when that 79 homes, 25% is released. The last 25% is held on a building permit for that 50,000 square feet. Little background about building permits. Building permits are good for 1 year, so they do expire. They do come with impact fees. So if you pull a building permit and get it, you have paid the town impact fees. Whether you build or not, at least we've got the money for that. So there will be, again, financial burden on the developer and the builder to make sure this actually happens, and when they stick their neck out a little bit, we coincide with some residential releases. Allowed uses, they also reduce some of their uses, such as vape, tobacco, pawn stores, title loans, paydays, and other predatory lending. And they do have some allowed uses, personal services, and things. So very similar request in the terms that we want this to be a mixed use and developed in a mixed fashion. Pickleball courts, this insert is straight out of the recreation survey taken from a couple years. It will be 6 courts, 3 covered, 3 uncovered, lighting, pavilion, again, matching existing aesthetics and the decor that we currently have and see in our recreation facilities, and dedicated parking. This will not be shared parking. This is parking just for this facility, again, that we will own and be built by the developer at their cost and donated to the town for ownership and maintenance. Buffers, there was a lot of discussion, particularly to the residents to the north, as well as the industrial properties to the south, to ensure that development, even though it's a residential and less intense use, we wanted to make sure that we were fair to the adjacent neighbors. So there will be a type C northern buffer that normally would not be required, a 50-foot 75 foot, but reduced to 50 foot with a berm and a fence to the south at the request of that scrapyard y'all previously heard. Wetlands, the setback on there will be 20 foot. As per our typical standard, however, the developer's gone above and beyond to make sure existing vegetation in that buffer is limitedly disturbed. And if it is not satisfactory to a type B planting rate, we actually increase it. So not only are we protecting the wetlands, but we're adding extra layer of protection around them. The landscaping, again, they will have to install landscaping per our typical policy and standards along US 52, ranging from Bid Barron all the way north to that northern entrance we spoke about earlier. That southern entrance will not just be a road. That southern entrance will be, and is designed with staff's hopes that this will be the gateway into the development. That comes into play later with the access, particularly on 52. But it is designed that that access from Bid Barron into the commercial development will be a little higher standard road because it is thought to be the parkway into it. So it will be 40-foot, 60-foot increments of street trees, which is higher increments, and it will have a spacing with evergreen shrubs in between. Typically, our standard is just the trees spaced further out. This will add trees as well as landscaping to make sure that, you know, we have that nice visual appeal. Trail system, this will continue the trail system that we currently already benefit from through Carolina Groves and Berkeley Electric Co-op. It will continue it north to stub out. So we will continue to have that nice facility for residents to traverse safely adjacent to 52, as well as other recommended additional trails around stormwater ponds and wetlands where appropriate to make sure we don't disturb or again, give up or damage any of our existing standards. The comp plan does show this as highway commercial overlay, which the commercial, the 50,000 square feet commercial plays into very nicely, with residential units behind, so that's that overlay. So it's consistent with both aspects of the overlay and land use plan in the comprehensive plan. Recreation facilities donated to the town, substantial commercial, which is what I believe town council wanted to see, and staff also agrees with that, with the financials of it, future connections and stub outs to adjacent and landlocked parcels. The concerns the planning commission had, as well as town council had, that staff is aware of. Planning commission heard this, we did not have a threshold for commercial. Y'all obviously heard that as well. We made sure 50,000 was the minimum, it could be more. Less density, obviously the reduction from 375 to 316 was considered, which adds to the financial impact that the planning commission had as well. Less impact on our local services, obviously plays well into the less dense and more impact fees, and then obviously the increased congestion. Now this was one thing that did change that y'all previously heard. As y'all mentioned, y'all wanted to make sure that the middle entrance was taken care of, or at least looked at extensively. The developer had made some comments, and we had lots of back and forth between town leaders, town staff, and the developer. And at this point, staff is recommending that a 3/4 access for that middle entrance be installed. Obviously, as I believe somebody mentioned earlier tonight, what happens with SCDOT, that is something that staff would recommend whoever makes that motion, should you make a motion to approve, that the 3/4 access be approved. Obviously, as this is a negotiated district, that 3/4 access needs to be verbally confirmed by the applicant. The applicant did not propose this, but is willing to accept it as staff's understanding. We need to make sure we get it clearly on the record they're okay with it, because it is a condition coming from y'all. So that being said, 3/4 access would ensure there is no leftover movement at that entrance to make sure that all traffic coming out at that commercial entrance is going right only. You will still have the ability to take a left in from Moncks Corner, and you'll still have ability to take a right in from Fox Bank, but you will not be able to take a left out of. The motion that y'all should make should have somewhere in the caveat that unless SCDOT specifically prohibits it. And that has come into play recently with staff, with Perry Hill and some other developments where we would like to see things and we think other partners are on board, and next thing you know, we have the rug pulled out from under, and what we promised y'all and what the developer agreed to can't physically be done by SCDOT. So we want to make sure that it's not the will or what they'd like to see, they are prohibiting 3/4 access, and that gives y'all the coverage to make sure that we can go and attack this and make sure this happens the way y'all want it to. That being said, Planning Commission recommended approval with those caveats earlier I mentioned, as well as staff. Staff changed it to recommend approval with that condition as well regarding the 3/4 access with the no left out. Planning Commission heard this August in 2025. Y'all heard the first reading in September 2025, and here we are almost 24 months later from the start of this second reading and public hearing. I'm available for any questions. I know Michael Condon with Dreamfinders and Josh Lee with Stantec are available for any questions should you have any, and obviously this is also a public hearing.
I make a motion to approve the requested plan development zoning designation as presented by staff outlined in the prepared ordinance and detailed in the associated plan development documentation, with the added condition that a full access to US Highway 52 at the middle entrance, which we've discussed, of the development be limited to a three-quarter access, restricting any left-out southbound movements from the development unless otherwise expressly prohibited by the South Carolina Department of Transportation.
Second.
Does anyone from the public like to speak on this matter? Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Westbrook, will there be a traffic study done for this community as well?
Yes, ma'am, 100%. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the PD will be done at every phase and will be held until all development and improvements be made. Also, one other thing, staff has already proactively started working on the engineering for the light at Van Buren. As y'all may remember, we do have that $1 million bond sitting on my desk for that traffic light improvement. With this coming online in Carolina Groves on Van Buren being completely built out very, very soon, we anticipate that coming online hopefully shortly after that, and we want to be proactive.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then also for under the permitted uses, you had a question mark next to gyms. Why is there a question there?
The zoning ordinance does not do a great job of defining uses. One of the gym aspects come into play with regard to parking. We hope that that flushes out with the UDO rewrite, but we did want to make sure through the developer, and we have been confirmed that gym, such as a Planet Fitness or something, is included in that. So I apologize for the typo of it being an older slide, but we wanted to make sure that a sports club specifically meant gym, because parking and accessibility, but more importantly, the assembly use of the building type is looked at. And so we're working through that, but that will be included.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? I want to say something on this one as well, just that, the people out here watching, got to understand that this has been a 24-month process with the town. We're not doing this willy-nilly. We just don't do growth to do growth. We've taken it from 375 to 316. We fought against townhomes. We got it all single family. We got amenities for the town. We're going to get impact fees for the town. We're going to bring businesses to the town and the residents. So, that's a good development in my eyes.
I'd like to say something as well. I think staff has done a great job with this. Just like the mayor has said, this has been going on for a while. But to echo Dr. Gibbs's comments earlier, it concerns me, and it's always in the back of my mind as far as the children, where they're going to school, and the traffic. And when I think about that, I think about the developments that have been approved already, the developments that are literally awaiting homes to be built. And we have a development right at Perry Hill that some townhomes are going in. We have another development at Perry Hill that some homes are going in. We have development right here on Main Street Extension that some homes are going in. We have a development across from Moss Grove that homes are going in. These developments are ready to build. We have Casabo Meadows right on Hetley. They are ready to build. And I take that into consideration when I make a decision. And to echo off of your comments about the congestion on the roads and everything else, I, in my heart, believe that a lot of Moncks Corner's traffic is not us as citizens. It is people from surrounding areas that are driving through here. And that's people coming from King Street, Andrews, Cordsville that are commuting to their job in Somerville. In the afternoon, they're commuting back home. The same thing applies to the 52 corridor. These are people from Pineville, Georgetown, as far away as Georgetown, Myrtle Beach. They're coming through here and then going home. The same thing applies people in Charleston. Their offices are there. They're coming up here to service Moncks Corner residents, then going back to their office in Charleston. I just don't know. We can't stop the growth completely or we'll die out. We have to be careful with our decisions on what we're doing. But at the same token, we have to be, and I hate to kind of mince my words and seem like I'm talking in circles, but we just have to be careful with what we're doing. And I assure you, this council is compassionate about the way the town is, the way that we all remember it. And we're taking steps to do it. And those steps can't always just be quash that project. So we're doing the best we can. These are not easy decisions on us, and I just wanted that noted. Thank you.
And to piggyback on what Councilman Sweatman just said as well, I mean, you know, Councilman Law has been in discussions about this three-quarter entrance. Councilman Sweatman has been about the commercial to make sure we get guarantees. If a house isn't worth $750,000, everyone thinks you build these subdivisions, the town get rich. If you're not over $750,000, we don't make anything on it, and we're actually going to lose money because of all the services. And then if all the developments coming up aren't worth that, it's going to make us outlay more money to the point where we either have to cut services or raise taxes on our residents. Commercial pays the bills. Impact fees makes it where we can have money to invest in Fire Station 3, police departments, recreation. So we have made a lot of changes the last few years to address these issues. And I'll 100% say that, you know, Chad is right. None of these discussions we ever have are just, we want to grow, grow, grow. We want to grow in a way that helps our residents. And it's not easy. I drive to Bosch every day, and it's a lot of traffic. We get that. But we also have to do what's best for our citizens of the town of Moncks Corner.
And I'm going to say one more thing that came to my mind. If we even were, and I think about this a lot, if we were to shoot down every development that came to town, in my heart, I truly believe it would not positively impact the traffic. The traffic is going to get worse because if we stop the growth here, they're going to move to the Kingstrees, they're going to move to the Greeleyvilles, the St. Stephen's and all of that, and they're still coming through our corridor here in town. So the only thing we can do is bypass them. Build a bypass around town, in my opinion. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was telling him I need, after you're done.
I'm done.
Okay. I just want to remind you, we still need to hear from the developer about accepting the three-quarter entrance.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, just to clarify that, we are willing to restrict access of Highway 52 so that you will not be able to take a left out of the subdivision. And then just to kind of piggyback off a question from the last project as far as, you know, build out's concerned, I think, you know, at this point, you know, best case scenario, you know, we can move forward after today and, you know, go through the permitting process, which is, you know, plus or minus 12 months. You know, we got to put in a lot of heavy common infrastructure up front to service commercial and some other aspects and getting all the turn lanes. So you're looking at, you know, realistically July 2028, you know, July through, you know, October 2028 before you even go vertical on a house, right? So, and at that point, you're not really getting homeowners in there until 2029. And so I think at that point, full build outs, you know, closer to 2032, 2033, just to give everybody some information on that.
Okay.
And one last question as I'm looking at this proposal up there. So as soon as this development, I mean, we've got a lot of clearing infrastructure and things of that nature to do. So right off the rip, we'll be approved, or you will be approved for 50% of the homes to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Then everything stops until commercial starts. Is that right?
Yeah, so essentially, yeah, so we've got to go get, so off the rip and we start, you know, getting with the engineer, you know, finishing up the TIAs and doing all that. But, you know, at the same time, we've got to be very, you know, forward thinking with the commercial, right? Because that 50%, you know, hold back on the COs, yeah, you get 25% of it back when you get your horizontal site plan approval from the town. But in order to get that last 25%, you got to go in there and build the horizontal infrastructure, commercial, you know, your roads, utilities, all that, so that you can get that building permit. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on the commercial side before we can, you know, get that last 25% back. A lot of investment.
Thank you.
All right.
I want to say something real quick. Look, I'm not against development at all. I'm in site work myself, so I see this every day, do this every day. My concern that I have expressed over the last few months with this is that we have a lot of neighborhoods that the infrastructure has been put in place that has not gone vertical, that we have not seen the impact of any of this yet, what it's going to do to us. I don't know how many, is there any idea how many homes that have not been built with the development on the bypass, Perry Hill,
Main Street Extension,
Main Street Extension, Moss Grove, that's Casabo over there?
I would say, apologies, you asked me, I apologize.
No, I'm just asking.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. I'd say probably 250, maybe 300 homes, with a full build-out of 12 to 18 months on all of them. Some of those projects, as you mentioned, have not even gone vertical, Perry Hill being one of them. Some of them, like Shine Lane and the bypass, the townhomes for Ryan Homes, just now going, but I'd say 250, 300.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna jump in again. Every one of those houses are not worth $750,000. There is no commercial at all in any of those developments. And Carolina Groves, we're not even gonna get any impact fees because of an agreement. So that's gonna cost the town money. If we don't get these commercial developments, I'm telling you, we're gonna end up cutting or raising taxes on our residents. And that's something that I don't want to be a part of. And I think we should all have to answer to them if we don't follow these good developments. Marilyn, can you please poll the council?
Councilmember Clark. Aye. Councilmember Lloyd. Aye. Councilmember Dennis.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Second reading and second public hearing, consider a development agreement, DA-25-02, request for 4 parcels, TMS 162-02-00-017, 162-02-00-019, 162-00-01-020, 162-00-01-029, and a portion of 1 parcel, 162-02-00-015, totaling 96.01 acres located on U.S. Highway 52. The parcel would be zoned planned development, PD, to allow single-family detached dwelling units, civic space, and commercial development. Community Director Westbrook.
Yes, sir. The development agreement for the previously approved zoning.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Anyone from the public would like to speak on any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public input. If you signed up for public input, I will call your name. Please come to the podium, give your name and address. You will have 3 minutes to speak. This time is to give citizens a chance to give town officials feedback. If you would like any follow-up and have checked the box on the sign-up sheet, someone from the appropriate department will be in touch. This meeting is for council and I to conduct the business of the town of Moncks Corner. Our first one is Mr. Walter Brown.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. If you would allow me, I would like to hand you this. I have a prepared statement and so you can follow along.
Thank you.
So this is dated April 21st. I realize I didn't quite do the date correct, but it's only 2026. So Mayor and Council members, Town of Moncks Corner, South Carolina, 118 Carolina Avenue, Moncks Corner Municipal Complex, Moncks Corner, South Carolina, 29461. Greetings, Mayor Hamilton and council members, Town of Moncks Corner, South Carolina. The undersigned are co-chairpersons for the Citizens for Community Historic Preservation, CCHP, and Moncks Baptist Church. The CCHP is an organized group partnership of Moncks Baptist Church leadership and members of the communities in the town of Moncks, as well as the greater Moncks communities. The CCHP will take interest in the value of acknowledging, preserving, and memorializing all histories and cultures to include spaces and structures where the histories and cultures were formed and are disappearing. The CCHP most immediate interest is in preserving the structure of the old-fashioned barbershop located at 486 East Main Street in the town of Moncks Corner. The CCHP is aware of the challenge Moncks Baptist Church faces with the town of Moncks ordinances, section 16-27, duty of maintenance of private property as it relates to ordinance number 1985-12 and 2,7-16-85 to include 8-122 notice of violation. In view of the challenge, the CCHP requests meeting with the mayor and council members to present plans for the preservation of the structure and share the current efforts CCHP has engaged in to support the interests of acknowledging, preserving, and memorializing the fashion barbershop and to all histories and cultures in the town of Moncks Corner. The CCHP seeks the town of Moncks Corner's support of our efforts in preserving the structure by granting a moratorium on the enforcement of codes cited in correspondence from Michael Better, Inspector 1, Code Enforcement Officer. A moratorium will allow CCHP and Moncks Baptist the opportunity to preserve this structure through a planned restoration project. Further, the project will be supported by the Moncks Baptist Church, Citizens for Community Historic Preservation, Town of Moncks Corner, and at-large interests and resources that reaches both the state and national levels. The preservation of this building is vital to the value of the history and culture of African Americans who were entrepreneurs, residents, workers, and worshipers on East Main Street. Main Street, east of the railroad tracks, was traditionally the African American quarter of Moncks Corner. Additionally, the preservation of this building is an opportunity for the town of Moncks Corner. As the town moves into the next century, this historical building will become an important and significant landmark of the past and future. This building will become a Main Street showcase as tourism develops in Berkeley County. Signed by Walter B. Brown, co-chair, Citizens for Community Historic Preservation, Rebecca M. Dillon, co-chair, Moncks Baptist Church. Any questions?
No, thank you. I will say that, you know, one thing I love about Moncks Corner Baptist Church is the soup kitchen, which I support personally. And the last time I went and dropped off a check, I talked to them. And our issue is that because of all the exposed brick that has holes and the water getting in, the church at the time had told me that they was going to do some temporary repairs just to strengthen the structure, because I think we're worried about it actually collapsing. But please get with Justin Westbrook, get his card, or speak to him after the meeting, and we'll work something, okay?
So after Mayor Hamilton, is that we would encourage that you, as well as interested council members, to meet with the Citizens for Community Historic Preservation, because we're in the process. I'll share this with you. We've already reached out to the State Historic Preservation Office to engage in that process. I've spoken to a couple of national people in terms of being interested. This building is, we estimate, 100+ years old. It's been operated for nearly 90 years. And the concern is the most recent letter that came from the inspector suggested that it would be 90 days from March 19th, which will put us at June 19th. That building cannot be restored in
Well,
that time
we'll,
frame.
we'll get Justin with you
Okay.
and we'll talk, because I know we extended it from the original one, but something has to be done to reinforce it in the meantime while you're waiting on funds. But get with Justin and
that's the
we'll
purpose
work
of
on it.
Asking for that moratorium, so.
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
We don't,
With this, we can't do it here, but get with him and
understand
we
that.
will
Yes,
talk
yes.
about it.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Geneva Fleming?
That would be me, and I yield to our spokesperson.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gibbs, would you?
Yes. I hope I'm not out of order, but I do yield my comments on the building, the Fashion Barber Shop, to what Mr. Brown has said. What I would like to just say, I was taken aback a bit when Mr. Westbrook said something about the DOT with these projects, and someone else mentioned, I think on council, about the school board. I don't attend many of these meetings, as you probably know, but to me, I'm a physician. I cannot treat a person's heart without considering their kidneys. To me, I thought this group would be in amalgamation with, let's say, DOT, school board, when considering these significant kinds of projects that are coming to the board. Development projects.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may.
No, sir, we got to keep going. So you've had your time and more than your 3 minutes, but we'll get with them, we'll get meetings.
This is a different subject.
Well,
Okay.
you've had your time, sir. I'm sorry. Miss Bridget Fashion?
I yield my time to Mr. Co-Chair Brown.
I'll allow that.
Thank you, Ms. Fashion. And I will move forward from the Fashion Barbershop. However, I wanted to ask that you take notice of item number 8 on the agenda. It mentions Town Hall Design and Workshop. My question would be whether or not the mayor and council have considered community input for the Town Hall design. Questions, I don't know that the community know where this is going to be, but the basic question is whether or not you've considered engaging the community for the design of the town hall.
Administrator Lord?
And we have not included that in the process.
Okay. Yeah, we've had many workshops within ourselves on it. So
But however, the question, would you consider community input?
we're past that point, I believe.
Well, I
On that,
think-
we've got the design and all.
And I think it's important to note that there's a group, we didn't sit up here and just come up with a plan of how this was going to look. There was a design group that does that engages those types of properties regularly and does that and is able to design those and lay them out and then kind of brings a footprint to us and says, this is something that's going to be doable for the needs that y'all have as a town. So there wasn't a lot of input, I would say. It was more of a, here's one or two options. What do you like?
Are you willing or able to say where that is going to take place?
Well, we've already done that process. We're already past that. But it's going in right there at the field by the Delta.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll have a space between the church and our facility because y'all own that piece of land that's going to be between it.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike and Joni Callow?
Didn't bring any ice cream?
I did not bring no ice cream, I'm sorry. So I just wanted to just bring something up. It's, Corner Square Plaza where Big Mike's Ice Cream is, it used to be kind of a rundown, kind of a bad area. And it's really, really gotten cleaned up. It's very nice now. We got several good businesses in there now. But I just wanted to talk about the problem kind of with, and I don't want to see any business go under. I want every business to succeed in this town, and especially in our complex. The more people we have in there, the better it is. But like the AK venue in there, we've had issues with all their weekend parties, and they have pot smoking going on, drinking out in the parking lot. Per like management, it's called the police. Management can't be at the complex all the time, obviously. But with that being said, sometimes it's an 80-year-old young woman's birthday. It's a baby shower. And it's not them that's the problem. It's the guests that they have. And then there's so many people there, they clog up the entire parking lot. And you have businesses like Fireside, Sabano, Big Mike's Ice Cream. We're losing business because, one, people don't want to walk through what's going on in the parking lot, and two, they don't have a place to park. And I don't know if there was a time when you guys were out there last summer. It got real bad last summer. You're talking 300-400 people on that site in the parking lot, So I didn't know if there's anything that, we can do about it. Like I said, I don't want to see any business fault, at all. I want to see them succeed just like us.
Right.
I'd like to grow, but it's hard to grow in an area that you're lacking, parking and, things like that. Like I said, I don't want to have to take our police away from issues in our town going on to, come and address, people out in the parking lot, basically loitering.
Okay. I will say that we've had this discussion. I've had it with Chief Richardson. They have spoken to the owner of the venue. It is not a bar. It is not a nightclub. It is not going to be treated like that. We actually have some good people that lets us know when these events are going to happen, and then we're very proactive about getting our officers out there to patrol extra on it. So we are aware, and one thing is Chief Richardson is not going to put up with that with the Moncks Corner Police Department. And if you need to, he's in Columbia the rest of this week. He's back Friday. But please set up a meeting with him, and he would be more than happy to come down and talk to you.
All right, cool.
All right, thank you. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? This meeting is now adjourned.